All right, everyone, let's get started. I know for many of you, that first full-time job is right around the corner. It's exciting, but here's something you need to know. Landing the job is really only the first step. To succeed, you have to understand the legal framework, the rule book, that's going to shape your entire career. So think of this as your essential guide to the real world of work.
So let's imagine it. That offer letter is in your hands. It's not just about the salary, you know. It's your ticket into a pretty complex system with some very specific rules. And knowing these rules isn't just for the lawyers or the HR department. It's for you. It's all about empowering yourself, knowing your rights and what's expected of you before you even set foot in the door.
So let's tackle the big question right away. Why does this whole workplace rule book even exist? I get it. It can sound like a lot of dry, legal stuff, but employment governance is actually the foundation of any fair, safe, and productive workplace. And trust me, it matters to you more than you might think.
It really all boils down to three key things. First, it manages legal risk. When companies follow the rules, they avoid massive lawsuits, and that creates a stable environment for everyone. Second, it builds trust and safety. I mean, when you know there are rules to protect you, you feel more respected, more valued, right? And finally, it just makes things run better. It drives efficiency. Clear standard processes mean everyone is treated fairly and consistently.
Now, to really get how these rules work in the real world, we need a map. And that map is what we call the employee lifecycle. It's basically the journey every single one of us takes with a company, from the moment we apply to our very last day.
And as you can see, your career journey isn't just a random bunch of events. Nope, it's a continuous path with very distinct stages. And each one, from that first interview to your exit, is governed by its own specific rules and best practices. So let's follow this map together. Okay, we're going to focus on the 4 most critical stages you need to know. First up, recruitment and selection. That's how you get in the door. Then there's onboarding, your first few weeks getting you all set up. After that comes development, which is all about how you grow in your role. And finally, offboarding. That's the process of leaving the company, whether it's your decision or theirs. Okay, now we're getting to the really important stuff, the rules themselves. Think of these as the non-negotiables, the absolute minimum rights that are guaranteed to you by law. It is so crucial that you understand these so you can stand up for yourself in the workplace.
Let's start with the basics, your time and your money. In most places, a standard work week is 40 hours. Anything you work beyond that is considered overtime, and legally, you have to be paid more for it, usually time and a half. And here's one people always forget. You are entitled to a 30-minute break after working 5 straight hours. Don't skip it. You've earned it.
Okay, let's get the whiteboard out, so to speak, and break this down. Let's look at Alex here. Alex makes $20 an hour and worked 46 hours one week. So the first 40 hours are regular pay, right? That's 40 times 20, which gives us $800. Now those extra 6 hours, that's overtime. The overtime rate is the regular rate times 1.5, so that's $30 an hour. 6 hours at $30 is another $180. You add it all up and Alex's total gross pay for the week is $980. See? It's pretty simple once you know the formula.
Now, beyond overtime, there are 4 more things you should always check on your pay statement. 1, make sure your hourly wage meets the legal minimum. 2, understand those mandatory deductions for things like taxes and employment insurance. 3, remember you have a legal right to get a detailed pay statement every single pay period. And 4, and this one is huge, know that equal pay for equal work isn't just a nice idea, it is the law.
All right, let's talk about the end of the life cycle, termination. It's really important to know that unless you are fired for some kind of serious misconduct, what the law calls termination for cause, an employer can't just show you the door on the spot. They are legally required to give you either reasonable notice where you work for a final period or pay in lieu, which is a severance payment that covers that notice period.
Workplace safety is not a one-way street. It is absolutely a partnership. Employers have a duty to provide training and a safe environment. But you, as the employee, have 3 fundamental rights. You need to remember these. You have the right to know about any hazards, the right to participate in safety planning, and, most critically, the right to refuse unsafe work without being punished for it.
You know, that brings us to a very modern puzzle. For so many of us, the line between our work and our home has just completely blurred. So when your office is also your living room, who's responsible for making sure it's safe?
This scenario makes it crystal clear. An employee working from home trips over their laptop's power cord. Is that a workplace injury? The answer is a definite yes. And here's the key thing to take away. Employers are still responsible for providing safe working conditions, even if that workplace is your kitchen table. This is why you're seeing more and more companies with remote work policies and safety checklists. The rulebook is always adapting to the way we actually work.
So, we've covered the mandatory stuff, the legal minimums, but a truly great workplace isn't just about checking boxes and following rules. It's about building a culture of respect, a place where people feel psychologically safe, and that goes way beyond the bare minimum.
And a massive part of creating that positive culture is having a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. It's so important to know that harassment isn't just one thing. It can be personal harassment, like bullying. It can be cyber harassment on work platforms, or it can be a manager abusing their authority. None of it, absolutely none of it, has any place in a professional environment.
So, we'll end with a big question for the future. We've seen how the rules have had to adapt for remote work. Now, with things like artificial intelligence completely changing how we do our jobs, and even who or what we work with, we have to ask, what new rights and responsibilities are we going to need? What will the next chapter of the workplace rulebook even look like? That's a chapter that your generation is actually